Hi friends, Christine here, and I know I just did a video, I just posted a video on making a book box, but I wanted to do another one because I wanted to make one that didn't require using hardboard, which is my material of choice for these books. I wanted to do that because for some people getting the material is tricky, or having access to a table saw or a miter saw or a specialty cutting tool is problematic. So what I've done, let's move this guy away, is created this box, and this one is created entirely with recycled cereal boxes and grocery store paper bag for the faux leather cover. So what you'll see inside is what looks like a book box made in the usual way I make them with the hardboard, but it's not. This also, like the cover and spine, is cereal boxes, and I made it in such a way that you can cut it with just a regular old utility knife. So you'll see how to do that in the video, and it's a series of videos because I had to split it up. But here's how I did mine, and here are some of the things that you could do with yours. So I made this little envelope here, a little place to keep photos or stamps or letters or whatever you'd like. Obviously it will be your book box. You can create any space you like. There's room for a pen or a writing utensil here. There is a lift ribbon to get them out. The one I made does fit these little journals. And then I talk about how to use this inexpensive stretch velour kind of odd little fabric to do something like this. And it's I show you how to be able to glue the stretch fabric to a board, and then mine becomes a journaling board on here, like so, if you need a hard space to write on. And there you go. So that's what we're doing. It was just a way for me to make it more accessible to more people. A lot of people have wanted to do this, but don't have access to some of those more unique materials like the hardboard. And being able to use this kind of fabric, it's for book covers and such, because that same method that I'll show you how to do, you could use to make little books as well. And otherwise, trying to glue this stuff to board is hard and difficult and maddening. But I'll show you a little technique to do it, and it's successful and easy and quick. So let's get to work. Our next step is going to be to start putting the cover together. And I'm going to play around with the idea of putting ridges on my spine. So I want to think about how I'm going to do that. I think I know. I'm just using a piece of book board that I trimmed off when I trimmed this, and I'm going to go get a different paring knife, I think, and see if I can't make this work. All right, I think I can just use this. So what I want to do is put the ridges like you see on the back of a book, indicating where the book might have been sewn onto rope or tape. So they don't need to be very big. This is far too fat for me. So I'm going to take this, again, it was just a piece of trimmed off waste, and I'm going to slice it skinnier. I'm going to try to get it as straight as possible. So let's try this. Probably could tape it down, but we're going to live dangerously. Oop, watch the thumb. Okay, I went a little off at the end there. That's okay, it doesn't need to be perfectly straight, except you know how I am. There we go. Okay, so I want the skinnier side to be my book thingies up. But it's a little bit funky there. So I'm going to have to use this one and trim it again, because this one doesn't go all the way. This was a cutoff. So I should have checked that first. So let's see. So this side is fully, they're all the same height, but it's too thick. I'm not going to want these big honking. Although, you know, no, I need it thinner. So I have the joy now of cutting this again. And this time I think I will tape it. Although if I tape it, probably going to move anyway. So we'll just, again, live dangerously. So I'm just going to take off the tiniest bit of this. Let me get this straight. Okay. And here we go. So just gently, a few times is all it takes. There we go. All right, so that looks pretty good. And it's almost the same size. You can see it's a little thicker up there, but that's okay because I'm going to do 2 across here. 1 up here, 1 up here, and then maybe 2 more. So hopefully I have enough. So one thing I do want to do before I start working with this, because we're going to glue the cover fabric or cover paper to this, and I want to make sure it's scuffed up because all of this coated stock that they use for boxes has a bit of a varnish on it, and I want to give the glue I'm going to use, which will be Mod Podge, enough tooth to grip to. So let me go get a sanding block. Okay, I'm using a 80 grit or a pretty heavy sanding block here. I'm just going to run it across and scuff this up all the way. Perfect. All right. So that just, again, chews up the varnish a little bit. I'll do this one too. And that will also help me round the sides a little bit, which I think I want to do. Although once the paper is not going to hit, gonna, I want to stop saying gonna. The paper is not going to hit. It's not going to cling that closely. It's pretty thick paper. So now I just need to mark where I'm going to cut. I'm just being general here. I can trim it all when it's in place. And I'll want to do that anyway, and I'll show you why. All right, now I've never done this before exactly this way. So now I'm just going to mark here that this is not what I want. I'm going to cut that off. So I put an X on that. And I could probably cut these with scissors. Let's try that. 1, there we go. So I don't want that piece. I'm going to get it out of here so I'm not confused by it later. Just going to cut these off. And again, they're slightly bigger than my spine, except for this one. Oh, all right. That one was not well glued. We could fix that. Maybe I want it smaller. Maybe that was a happy accident. No, I need a little bigger of a bump because the paper's pretty thick and I might be asking too much of it. Oh, that was neat. Too much of it to wrap over something so skinny and look good. I mean, I'm sure it could do it, but all right, so we're just going to let that sit for a second. Or in a moment of, aren't I smart, I could just go get the other one. That piece I cut off and cut it to size. Like so. There we go. Okay, now I've got my 4 pieces and I want to glue them in some way. Just making it up as I go. I should look on the other side because it's easier to visualize without all of that logo stuff. So it'll be there and there. And there and there. Yeah, that looks awfully boring. Maybe I'll even them out. As though it were sewn over 4 tapes. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to spread them out. Okay, after further deliberation, I decided this is about how I want them. So I'm going to put one in the center-ish and evenly space them throughout. start with this guy. It is straight and beautiful. So here's the spine of the book. And again, I'm going to let it sit. I'm going to find the lid from the glue, which went flying earlier. Okay, up there it is. And let that go. So now we're ready to start thinking about the construction of the cover. Everything is well and sturdy and stuck. So now I'm going to take a sanding block, and this one was not very straight on, but that's okay. So I'm going to first, before I take the sanding block, look at the edges and see what needs to be trimmed off and do that. And I'm going to be careful because I want to keep the spine very straight. So maybe I'll throw the ruler on it just as added protection, because we know how easy it is to slip while we're cutting. I'm just going to cut these off. There we go. This one just does not want to stick. I don't know why that is. How are you different from all the rest? All right, well, I will play with that off camera. Again, I've not had that happen. And once it's in place, it should be fine. So the next thing I want to do is round these edges. And that's what I'm going to do with the sanding block. I'm just going to round them a little bit as though they bleed into the other cover, as though they were actually tapes that are then frayed and sewn into the cover. So this guy's going to be a little trickier. And I'm not actually rounding, more like just doing it on a diagonal. So I'm softening that edge, breaking that edge. Like here you can see it's really sharp. And I'm just going to break it down so that now it's a little bit softer. And same with each one. You can kind of see it from the side. I don't know if you could see, but now there's a slight slope there. And I'm going for that on every side, but not the spine itself, so we don't want to be hitting that. All right, so now they're all a little bit softer, and they all might get softer still. You could also simply, and I might do it now, because they could get a little softer still, just use the knife and put them kind of at an angle. However it is you want, or maybe you don't want soft round ends on yours, but I do. So, because as we know, my belief that time has no sharp corners, and I want this to look a little aged. So I'm going to clean off this space because I'm going to put the cover down, and I don't want all these shrapnels and glues and whatnot. And then we'll be back and we'll start laying that out. I've cleaned up a little bit. Here's our cover. It looks far shinier than it actually is. It has a nice sheen, but this light makes it look crazy. Okay, so that's our cover, and you can see it fits nicely, but I want to be mindful of centering it because like this area here is not quite as full. So I'll make sure I'm not getting this on the front. This can be wrapped around the parts that aren't fully covered. So I want to do the same thing to each of my front and back covers. I'm going to scuff them up. I should have done this before I cleaned up. One. All right. So originally I was going to use Mod Podge on this, but I've decided to not. I've decided to use Fabrifix because Mod Podge is going to wet this all again. And I'm not sure how much of the wrinkles will come out. I mean, it's possible, and they're pretty in there at this point, but I think I'm just not going to take that chance. So I'm going to get ready, do it this way. I'm going to put this side out and just lining it up. And again, I'm being mindful to center it, top and bottom. Side to side, I've got plenty of room, but top and bottom, I want to make sure that it's all under the painted parts. Okay. So let's see this side now. All right, we have a lot more room down there, so we're good. We are good. So what we're going to do, I'm going to start by putting down the spine, because I'm going to place the spine first and then do a little magic with burnishing in the ridges. So we know it's going to be about there. See, now I want to use Mod Podge on that because I like the flexibility. Which to do, which to do. We're going to do the Mod Podge. I'm making an executive decision. So now I need a brush. All right, handy brush, piece of scrap paper that I can put this on, and this is my dip it right in. Oh, it's hardly going to fit. I should have brought a little tin. That's right, we don't need too much. And I'm going to make sure it gets into all the nooks and crannies of my ridges. A little bit more. And nooks and crannies. And all the sides. Make sure it goes to the ends. Okay, there we go. All right, so now put that aside. I'm just going to eyeball this like so. Keep it together. Put the lid on that. Flip it over and start working the paper in. So here, a little bone folding. And this is where we want to, this is where I wanted more working time than the other glue is going to give me, because I want to be able to work it in. Keep working it in. Lift this up and let it move a little bit more so I can adjust some. There we go. So then each time I pull up a little bit more, down to the next. I'm going to hold it here so that there's enough play that I can get these to form. Okay, so you kind of need to do them together. Yeah, it's easier if you do them together. Pretty good, huh? Yeah. Okay, so here and here, and it's already starting to resemble an old leather spine. And the wrinkles have not come out. I actually like how they look. I don't like when they look super fake and big. I like when they're sort of understated. I think a lot of, whenever you're trying to replicate something to look realistic and genuine and authentic, overdoing it is just overdoing it. So now, there we go. That looks pretty. Okay, this part is not sticking, and I see that. I'm going to get some more glue under there to all of these parts. So there's my brush. And here, and we're going to give it some time. So, again, I really want to keep working it as the glue dries. All right, I'm going to give that some time to set, and then we'll get back to work in a few minutes. Time to get the cover on. And I'm going to go with the Mod Podge again to get this cover down. And I'm going to use this side, the more abrasive side, or the more fibrous side, to go down. I think that's going to help ultimately with adhesion to keep it flat. And so both of these are going to go down like so. And I'm going to use just this little dowel. It's a little 1/4 inch dowel to line up line them up when it's time, and make sure also that the bottoms and tops are aligned as well. So, little Mod Podge, and we're halfway there. I should cut this. Okay, I'm going to put it in a bucket this time, or at least an empty cat food container. And I'm going to paint this side with the lovely PVA glue, really any Aleene's glue, I mean really anything. Mod Podge, obviously. And since we're going to be gluing to both sides, ultimately, I don't worry too much about the warping, because it will unwarp itself ultimately. Okay, so a nice thin layer. Doesn't have to be too gooey or gloppy. Let's put it on. Stick in our little spacer. So if you're just doing it by eye, about 1/4 inch is plenty good. And then let's make sure that we're straight with our spine, and we appear to be fine. Fine. All right, so let's move that away. And we do want to burnish a little, if we can find our bone fold, which I have here. There it is. And I'm going to burnish first from this side. Make sure that I didn't move it while burnishing, because I'm famous for that. I think, nope, that still works well. Good morning, morning voice. We've missed you. Right, now I'm going to come on this side. Yeah, that's going to be very nice, very nice. Put this over here. And lovely, lovely. Sometimes the back of your fingernails work just fine. Okay, so there's one. And now we're going to do cover number 2. I don't know yet, excuse me, which is going to be the back or front, because I can flip it, because the book is pretty much symmetrical. That wouldn't have been the case if I had spaced the ridges on the spine asymmetrically. I would have had to have decided ahead of time, front and back. Thin but well-covered coat of this is all we need. Okay, same thing. Put our little measurer. Sure that we're straight, top and bottom, which that is not. Let's go a little bit more there. Looks like I might be a little off here. Let's see. Actually, that's not bad. Okay, this one is a little off in how it's cut. So let's cheat a little. Cheat to that one. That looks fine. There. Again, that's a little, each of these is a little higher in the corners. That's okay. They're equally higher in the corners. So I'm going to finish this. And then go at it with the nails, because you can really, with the nails, get it pushed into the glue. And you do want it pushed into the glue. You don't want any high spots. feel like I have a high spot there. I do. So we're going to come back in here. And you do want to check for that, like if there wasn't enough glue or if too much of it absorbed in. Looks like over here I might have the same. Yeah. So we're just going to add some more. So check all of your corners for that. Yep. Here, less so, but still. And we can get the other edges on the other side from the other side when we glue the wrap around. Okay. Let's pick this up and really burnish. All right, so all seems well and fine. So now we can trim. We don't need that much all the way around. So I'm going to cut, I don't know, we'll keep a bunch of it. Maybe about 2 inches of it. Yeah. Something like that. Something like about 2 inches. And it's, again, more than we need, but we want to keep it more than we need until we know we don't need it. And I'll do the same on this side. All right, so I'm going to let this sit for just a couple of minutes while it dries further. And then we're going to come back and we're going to trim a little bit more. Sorry, got lost in thought there. This side's lifting up a little. I can feel it. I can feel it right there. So we'll have to deal with that. There we go. See this area here, I can feel is lifting. I don't want that. So again, all of this will stay connected once we do the fold over. I'm not too worried about that. But let's go back to this side. Give that a little burnish. All right. So I was going to let it sit, but I think we could just go on and get it all glued up. And then we won't have to think about it anymore. Okay. So looking at this, that's way too much. We do not need that much. So I'm going to trim it again. And I'm going to trim it down to the width of the ruler. Basically on all sides. Go away, little bug. That one is good. And this one is gonna come down to here. All right, so now we need to miter the corners. So what you want to make sure of is that you have enough extra in this corner to cover the width of your cover. So to do that, we're going to just cut here, down, and then we're going to kind of just veer off it. There you go. So that would be enough to cover the corner. So you're going to leave a little space here. So we're going to come in, leave a little space, and go back like so on all the covers. I'm sorry, on all the corners. Yeah, plenty. There we are. Okay, so now we are going to fold these over and glue them. And you can see this one I was skimpy on, and I thought so when I cut it. I'm just going to have enough to cover this up. I'll probably have to give it a little dab of color. Okay, I'm going to now, because I'm thinking about this, and by using Mod Podge on the front, I think that's what's activated some of the cardboard, so that it wasn't sticking as much as I'd like, although it seems to be fine now. All the same, for this side, I'm going back to the Happy Glue. Okay, so all we have to do, we could start with these sides, top. Get that really good and gooey. Lots of glue right along the edges. That's very important because that'll help us keep everything square and together. We're going to pull it down, and as we're pulling, going to make it a good solid connection. Okay, so you see here, we're going to just tuck that in, this corner here. Just going to tuck it in, and that will cover the corner when we miter. So make sure. There, good, 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 good. Okay, on to the next. Now I'm going to do this side. Gonna. Same thing. Generous amount, but never too much, but more than enough to suit our needs. And then we're going to come straight across to make sure we have enough glue on the edges. And make sure we have a glue toward this edge. And here we go. Pull it over. And it's a beautiful thing. Go into the hinge area. Come here and hit this corner because that's how it's going to fold over. And there as well. And then burnish. Okay, so now that we have that hinge area done, we want to just give our book a test. Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, now we do the sides. I can come back in here and fill in any edges that aren't fully. I always like to keep bending it to make sure that the glue and the paper are getting along. And then we can up this hinge. There we go. And then up this hinge. Now, on this side, we also want to crease this. And we'll do this again after we put on the end papers. But there we go. Okay, so now let's just get these guys in place. Oh, throwing glue. Again, good bead along here so there's no argument that it stays stuck to its edge. Okay, just got a glob of glue on there. Let's go, go, go. And now we're going to take this and rub. I'm not sure I got enough. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Plenty of glue there. So make sure that it turns okay. to tuck in your corners. This was the corner where I was a little skimpy, so we'll see. It's just going to make it. Put on here. Oh, just misses by like the smallest little amount. So I'll dab that with a little ink. It will be invisible. All right, there we have it. One leather cover. So I'm going to let it sit while I consider the kinds of things that will decorate it. Wouldn't be a bad thing to put a book on it, just because again with Mod Podge, the warpage is always possible. But we're not really having any there, we're fine. So I'm going to let this sit and we'll be back. So I thought I'd pop back on, or at least turn the camera back on, because I found myself making an adjustment that wasn't on camera. And what I'm doing is simply bending back the binding and squishing it against the spine. So I'm taking each cover and basically bending it up and squishing it against the spine because I want that crease. I want it to feel like a real old book. And that's one way to do it. So now, as it dries, I'll do it again after we do the insides. But you can see I have this little binding seam there. And it just makes it look a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to leave it to dry like that. I will put something heavy on each side. Now that the cover's done, in the next video, we'll work with the end papers, we'll construct the box, add the embellishments, and finish it up.